This is Brindlewood Bay Tourist Season Part 10. Let's do a little bit of recapping. We don't have Ida right now, but I think it's okay. I mean, everyone's in kind of a cliffhanger, but I think Ida will be easy enough to cabin off for that scene, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. But a bit of just running through the mavens themselves. Esther's conditions currently are Bloodhound and Bride of the Occluded King. Ruth has Shaken and Frightened, and Ida has Hurt and Heartwood, but Ida's not here. And then Laura has the Clouded Past and also Frightened. Our mystery is the Hex Files, which is our sweeps week mystery. Essentially, you found the files of a pair of special agents in the FBI who were killed in an automobile accident, and they led you to this town of Devilwood, where apparently people have been going missing in Devilwood. And the mystery here is you're just trying to figure out what's going on in the town of Devilwood, what's happening to these people who go missing. You have 4 clues currently. There is a spell inscribed in blood. This was found in the guest book at the guest house. There's deadly nightshade growing in the woods. You found a jar in a tree containing a still beating heart in same woods. There's a secret altar. The altar is I think it was out of the diner, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the bathroom, right, Laura? I know you crawled into a hole in the wall and found this secret altar space to this multi-limbed coyote god. Devilwood, of course, takes place in New Mexico, a particularly verdant and cold part of New Mexico. And we have several side characters that we've met so far. Millicent Osborne is the guest house owner, very unfriendly. Elsie Simons, the diner owner, much more friendly. Luther Montero, this rich guy who has a talking rat, apparently, and who might be a descendant of or possibly is a conquistador. Jack Wolf is the sheriff. He's a really, really suspicious character, not unfriendly, but definitely keeping an eye on you. Bessie Johnson is this fortune teller / wise woman who we have not seen much yet, but that's kind of one of our cliffhangers. The Devilwood Raven is a raven. And then Walter Ephraim is the town drunk and a ghost. So that's where we are at right now with all the characters. We essentially ended on 3 little cliffhangers. The first is that Ruth is having lunch with Luther Montero in his fabulous villa on the hill, and he's creepy, and there's a lot of implied danger going on here, so we'll see how that shakes out. Ida and Esther just went into a little room down some stairs, a little basement off a side alley with Bessie Johnson. Bessie Johnson called Esther my queen. That could just be an affectionate thing, or it could be a reference to Esther's condition. We don't quite know yet. And then Laura was last seen crawling into a crawl space from a bathroom, I believe in the diner, and found this altar to this god. Is there anything else that we need to be reminded of, or that you want to ask a question about before we begin?
So I have a scarecrow thing to remind you about.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will definitely. Oh, I have an idea for that. So that's good. We could pick up with that right away. Okay, good. Yeah, let's start. So Esther, Ruth rather, you've been enjoying this fabulous spread with Luther Montero. I'll remind you, there's a big portrait that looks like Luther as a Spanish conquistador with a rat talking on his shoulder. You also saw the rat earlier when you were snooping. At a certain point, when Luther is standing up and has his back turned, maybe talking about some kind of object in the room, kind of going on, because he was kind of going on about the history of the place, right? At some point, a waiter or a servant of some sort will approach you with a little covered silver dome, and he lifts the dome, and there's a pager on it. Now, it doesn't work because we know that electronics don't work here, but it is it's your free floating clue. So
Okay, great.
could be for this mystery, could be for the void mystery. So yeah. And then he sets the dome down and then takes away your dishes or whatever and goes. What are you doing at this point, Ruth?
I mean, I feel like Ruth is a pretty sociable lady, so I feel like I would definitely just be trying to have a conversation with this guy here, with Luther.
Yeah, and he's just going on about how the conquistadors originally occupied this land, and just going on about different things. He's it's almost like a routine. It's like he's been wanting to say this he says this to whoever will listen, and there's something about the way he speaks that sort of makes him seem unstuck in time. His slang perhaps is like a little dated. We already know that he doesn't really have access to like the internet or anything like that here. And so he just definitely feels like he's sort of in this little hermetically sealed space, sealed away from the modern world almost, right? I'm not sure he's like giving you anything particularly interesting unless you want to take some other kind of action.
I want to be introduced to the rat.
Oh, very good. Do you just bring that up?
Yeah, so I mean, I saw that he had a pet rat, and
Yeah.
I happen to love rats, right? Like everybody. And
Yeah.
so I just love to meet his pet rat.
So that's what you say?
Yeah.
He says, oh, well, and he make the meddling move, make it with presence. Let's see how that
Okay.
goes. Take it at disadvantage though.
Okie doke. That's a 2. No, it's a 3 because I have 1 in presence.
We'll come back to that. Laura, you found this crawl space with this like ritual space in it. What do you do right now?
I think Laura will. So this of course is a windowless space, right? There's no other way out but back to where I crawled in. Are there any papers or anything written anywhere on the walls, or like I think Laura's just taking a look around, and if she's already here.
You can do another meddling move with reason. No, sensitivity, and but at disadvantage.
Right. That's a 5 plus 1, 6.
Off to a great start, Mavens. Let's we'll put a pin in that as well. Esther, I think in this scene, Ida's just going to be kind of in the background. But you go downstairs with Bessie Johnson, and let me see if we have a paint the scene here. No, we don't, but I can come up with something though. As we kind of enter Bessie Johnson's, it seems like her home. What do we see in her space that shows she's lived in Devilwood all of her life? And everyone gets to answer that.
I think that there is a photograph of her as a very young girl, like as a child, standing in front of one of the buildings. If there's like a town center, one of the town center buildings, right? We talked about the like shape of it. Yeah.
I think there's a plaque, like anniversary plaque that thanks her for her 50 years of service to the local Devilwood Historical Association.
And so maybe just like some old maps of Devilwood, like hand annotated old maps of Devilwood.
Nice. I like it. I like the idea of the maps having like little cacti and and other like deserty little things, you know, cow skulls, things like that. Good. She takes you down there and she says, I know you're here investigating the mystery of all those people who've gone missing over the years. The truth is, there's something evil in this town, a rot that's been here long before the town's charter was written. I have always tried to do my best to get along, not rock the boat too much, but it's starting to become the kind of situation where you can't look away anymore. And she says, I'm not going to tell your fortune, but I do think with you here, talking about you, Esther, with you here, we can reach the dead and talk to them and see what they have to say.
You know, I think that's a great idea. I've actually done it several times. You know, my friends are also really good at it.
She says, well, I have a few tools that might be helpful. And she and here she pulls out like she has like just like common objects, a flashlight, a Gold Crown Mysteries paperback, things like that, right? She says, these are all things that have belonged to some of the missing people. Perhaps we could use these as objects to focus on them, to call them forth.
I think that's a great idea. And I have the perfect thing that we need. Can I say that we brought the Ouija board and it's in the truck?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like now we just bring it with us everywhere. Yeah, so I would be down to like get the Ouija board and get going with that.
Awesome. Let's just do that move then.
All right.
Go ahead and roll with sensitivity. And I think because of the focus objects, I'm not gonna have any of your conditions affected, so it'll be a straight roll.
Nine.
Good. We'll come back to that. So here I'll remind everybody that you still have two more crown things you can tap into. We have the what's it called? The crown of something, crown of the woods. There are still two more marks on the crown of the woods you can take in order to bump up a die roll. So just keep that in mind. But Ruth, you've got a miss. There's no such thing as degrees of miss, but yours is a pretty bad one. And
so should I have been using, is that a case that I could have used Columbo on?
Oh, Well, so Frank
I mean, it
Columbo,
would still suck for me, but I would get a clue out of it.
you will get a, yeah. I think this is a totally a Frank Columbo situation because he is the richest person in town,
Right.
right? So this makes sense. Yeah, so you'll get the clue regardless, but you still have to deal with my reaction. So he says, well, yes, of course. How did you, you were spying on me.
Accidentally, while looking for birds.
Well, you accidentally stepped into my snare trap, so I guess we're even. And he says, yes, of course. And here he says, Iago, and his little rat Iago crawls out of his pocket into his hand. He says, this kind lady would like to meet you. And he sets Iago down on the table, and Iago comes scrambling toward you. What do you do?
Birdseed.
Okay, good. And Luther says, you'll have to forgive Iago's impertinence if he doesn't care too much for your bird seed. He has what I would describe as more carnal tastes.
Like what?
He says,
I don't think I've ever met a carnal rat before.
He says, well, it's the first time for everything, isn't there, Ruth? And I have to give you a clue if you're doing Frank Columbo, so let me do that now. Here you will notice, quite suddenly, there are claw marks here and there on the legs of the tables, on the walls. They are from an abnormally large creature. And at this point, Iago, I think at this point, the room goes dark, even though it's full daylight and the windows are open. The room goes magically dark, and it's just you and Iago. But then Iago crawls back into the shadows, and you can see his red glowing eyes are suddenly multiple red glowing eyes. And you can see his shape getting bigger and bigger on the table. You got your clue though. What do you do?
So it's just darkness everywhere I can see.
It's just like a spotlight on you and Iago and nothing else.
Gotcha.
We can't even see Iago anymore, just his kind of vague, right, increasingly monstrous shape.
I'm gonna just try to back away from giant rat.
Very good. You can back away. I don't think that makes you safe though.
Right. But do I get to anything else? Like,
the room is still
basically,
the room is still basically the same. Like, you can still kind of feel even the exit to the room. And you hear Luther's voice in the darkness. He says, you can run if you want, Ruth, but Iago is a hunter, a very skilled one. He's had centuries to perfect his skills.
Okay. So I'd like to get out of the house. And I think this is a great opportunity to MacGyver my way out of this situation.
Oh, nice. But here we have to describe, because you can't see anything in the environment. It's like, what do you reach out for blindly and grab? Right. We each get to say something, Alicia and Adrian.
They're in like a dining room thing, right? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there are some heavy, like, brass candlesticks.
I'm going to say that there is a soup tureen filled with hot soup. You feel the heat as you reach for it.
And a tablecloth under the soup tureen.
Nice. So you got some objects here, any one of which might help you. So what's your plan? What do you do?
All right, so I'm just gonna wait for him to get close and then flip the soup, use the candlestick to flip the hot soup over him, toss the tablecloth over him, and just
Right.
kind of book it toward where I remember the closest window being.
Very, very good. Let's read the move here. What do you get in exchange for this?
Advantage.
Advantage. Okay, cool. I think that's just gonna cancel out your shaken and frightened. So roll normal.
All right, and this is
It's sensitivity.
Vitality?
It's sensitivity.
Sensitivity, okay.
Yeah, because of the supernatural aspect.
oh, that's a 12.
Nice. And you get a little bonus as well. What should the bonus be? You grab something on the way out to add to your personal quarters. I'll let either Alicia or Adrian decide what that is, but go ahead and give us the scene.
Yeah, so I think like you can sort of see the eyes getting bigger and bigger as Iago heads closer, and then Ruth flips the soup on him with the candlestick, and you can hear like the thunk as it hits him, and then like a scream as the hot soup pours down him, and then she just tosses the kind of slides everything on the table off on top of him, and crashes through the window outside of the house.
Who has an idea for what Ruth grabbed on the way out?
What about one of Iago's whiskers?
Nice. A monstrous demonic whisker. Good. Let's go back to Laura. Laura, you're gonna miss as well, right? Sheriff Jack has come into the bathroom. It's unisex, we'll say. And you can hear him taking a leak. And he's singing to himself, "All my exes live in Texas," which may be true. And then after the toilet flushes, you hear him step out, and you hear just like the squeaking of the stall door leading to where you're at. And he says, "Is anyone in there?" What do you do?
I think Laura will will very quickly kind of jump almost through the opening back there into the stall, and will try to do it as quickly as possible so it appears as if she's just been there in the stall all the time.
No, he's already looking in the stall, and it's
he's in the stall.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
in the stall.
Okay, so
looking at
he's
he's
looking
calling
into the
into the
hole.
hole. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not the wild, daring physical feat that she's doing today. Then I think then actually what is this altar like? Is it like a is it an object that she could pick up, or is it like
Yeah,
some
it's too big.
things that are
Yeah, it's too big. I think there's more to find in
Okay.
this space, but if but not if you get
Yeah,
dragged
yeah.
out of there by Sheriff Jack. So.
I think then, okay, if it's a big thing, then is there a way that she could hide behind it?
I think so. I think maybe even just being really quiet would probably do it. He
Yeah.
doesn't know you're in there. He just kind of is
Okay.
having a hunch, maybe. I think
Yeah,
I think I want to make this the night move because of the space, even though it's the middle of the day. And I would ask you, what are you scared is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
Let's see. The other thing I was thinking of, so are there any paraphernalia like masks or anything in there?
Sure, why not? Yeah, what'd you have in mind?
So I wonder if that if Laura could kind of pretend to be one of the like be doing something there.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's good at playing theater, as we learned last time, and
I think that's an interesting
disguising
approach.
herself.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach. I like it. I think it's still the night move, and
Sure.
So what you're trying to accomplish is just like convince him that you belong there, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like she would put on a mask there, and then maybe maybe because it says here, right, with the Remington steel move, if there's a piece of a disguise that would help you with your ruse, you have it. So maybe she has like a little bell or something, like a Indian ritual bell that she carries around just for as a token of luck. And so she would put on this mask and then ring this and start this chant, like as deep as a voice that she can, and make it appear that there's some sort of ritual going on at the moment, and that maybe there are more than just one person in there. Like it makes it sound
I like it. Yeah, I like it. It's good. I think with your moves, it'll just balance out the disadvantage. So you can roll.
Sure.
With first of all, to say what you're scared is going to happen if you fail.
Well, so I think probably like she tries to keep him out, like maybe even scare him. She's not sure if he's involved in all of this here or if he would be scared, and what she's afraid that he would come in and find out that she's doing a little bit of theater here.
I think it's worse than that. He's going to figure out the ruse, and then he's going to wall you up in this space.
Sure.
And so
that's just a normal roll.
With composure, yeah.
With composure, okay. That's a 9 plus, all right, 1, 10.
Nice. Give us the scene. How do you like cause it? How does he?
So I think Laura really in this moment, she really like, she was kind of stuck staring at what is going on, and suddenly heard this voice, and she suddenly jumps into action, and she really, from one moment to the next, puts on this little kind of theatrical performance of a ritual. So basically ringing this bell, putting on this mask. Yeah, so basically ringing the bell, talking in the deepest voice that she can manage, and then in a high voice, so making it appear that there is more than one person in there, and maybe there are some other things on this altar that she can kind of handle and make some weird sounds with, yeah, and so she puts on all this theater as if there's a big thing kind of going on in there with multiple people. and hopes that this will keep the sheriff from getting involved in this, because hopefully he does not want to disturb whatever is going on there.
I think you'll hear him sigh and he'll say, so late in the week, well, whatever. And he just like sort of turns and leaves like it was no big deal. Esther, you and Bessie and Ida presumably too is there. You're all doing the Ouija board. And you realize at a certain point, candles are flickering. The space gets suddenly quite cold, and you realize at a certain point that Walter Ephraim, the ghost drunk, is also there, just suddenly sitting there. And Bessie says, Walter, nobody invited you here. Walter says, well, I just thought I heard someone call my name. And Bessie says, never mind, let's keep going. And she continues calling out to other spirits if they'd be willing to speak. And you got a 9, right? Let's take a look at that.
So to be clear, Bessie does know that Walter is a ghost then?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's like, yeah, it's very like, he definitely, you definitely know now something weird is going on with Walter, if not, or Bessie. Yeah, I think Bessie like knows. Like, I think everybody knows. Like, everyone just treats him like he's like a pest more than anything, And Walter says, oh, there's someone here. There's someone here, but no, they're speaking Spanish. I never learned Spanish.
Can we say that I speak Spanish?
Yeah, you can speak Spanish. Yeah.
I mean,
and he begins like, he says, so what do you say?
I guess I'll be like, oh, I speak Spanish. And I'll go like on a little tangent about Miguel and how Miguel taught me Spanish. And like, it's a little rusty. It's been a while, but.
So, and Walter says, well, okay. I'll just repeat what they're saying. And he sort of like repeats what the ghost is saying in like really terrible phonetic, Spanish. And the thing you pick up is that the ghost or the spirit you've contacted is going on and on about buried gold in the area. That's your clue. Buried gold. But I think a complication as well. And think on that. I think the complication is just going to be a condition. I think that you are going to become obsessed with the idea of what's this town called? Not Deadwood, Devilwood. You're going to be obsessed with the idea of the Devilwood gold. So you can put Devilwood gold as a condition. And is there anything else you want to do in that scene? Or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
So this might be a good time to, I'll give Laura another chance to kind of search that altar space. But Ruth, it sounds like you're probably going back to town, right?
Yeah, I was gonna try to talk to the Raven before, like on the way back, but.
Okay, I gotta do something real quick. Hold on. So the Raven talks, right? Have you heard the Raven talk?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think like when you run out, you'll see the Raven straight away, like like kind of hanging out like in the forest, kind of watching you. What do you say? What do you do?
So I think I'm pretty freaked out. I just jumped through a window and stuff. And so I think I'm like running up to the Raven for help, right? And so I want the Raven to show me the way back to town.
Okay. The Raven will do that. Yeah. They'll
Okay.
guide you through the forest. Yeah, no
And on the way, I'm gonna ask about Iago and like the house and all of that and just see what this Raven knows.
Do the meddling move with sensitivity again, but not at disadvantage because of your affinity with birds. You can take it normally.
Great. 9.
9. All right. Come back to that. Laura, what are you doing down in the crawl space now that the sheriff's gone?
Is there so this altar, are there any like openings in there or doors or something like small?
You can take another
Like
meddling move. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. That is not more than a 5.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. So behind the statue with the multi-limbed coyote god, the statue can be moved, and I think you do move it. And there's just a small opening big enough to crawl through, perfectly dark. What would you do? Also, the smell of death and rot wafting in.
I think Laura, at this point, I think she will reach in to see if there's anything in there.
You feel
but
a
kind
cold,
of like with
you feel
I'm
a cold, clammy hand grab yours from inside the hole. And appearing from the dim light, staring at you, is a person whose eyes have gone milky white. And they're smelling the air. They're smelling your arm.
Can I mark the crown of the woods
To
for this
avoid
whole
this?
thing? Yeah, the whole thing.
Sure. You mark the crown of the woods.
Seems a good thing.
Instead, you are going to find that passageway. It's very dark and it still smells, and you reach in, but nothing grabs you. But to get to anywhere useful, you're going to have to. That's your clue, though. The passageway is your clue. You can choose whether you go in there or not. So do you go in there, or what do you do?
I think so. I think because Laura she was kind of expecting that something, she was already expecting something would be in there, but then it seems that it only smells bad. So she does go in, like
Seems like a bad idea, but go for it, Laura. Indeed. The crown of the woods that's marked Each player narrates a flashback in which their maven acted on instinct rather than reason. So be thinking of that. That's for everyone. And we see Laura crawling into the hole. Let's go back to Esther. When it's all settled, Walter disappears. Ida goes up to the street level to get some air, leaving you with Bessie. Esther, what do you do?
So I'm just gonna look her in the eyes and say, so that was fun. Definitely glad to know that I'm not the only one who thinks Walter is a ghost.
She's like, oh, old Walter, he's been around forever. You know, I think a lot of us don't even think about him being a ghost, to be honest. He just is.
Right, but he's definitely a ghost.
Well, he's definitely dead. I couldn't tell you the precise taxonomy of what he is, that not being a specialty of mine. But is he a revenant out for revenge? Who could say? Is he a lost, wandering spirit? Probably. Is there something more? I don't know.
Well, if I understand correctly, your specialty is fortune telling, and you did promise myself and Ida that you would tell our fortune.
Oh, certainly, yes. Well, all right. Here. And she takes out a sack and she shakes the bag and spills out the contents onto the table. It's a selection of rocks with markings on them, little bits of woven twig and bramble, and some animal bones. And she's moving them around, and she's like, yes, yes. Well, I see many things. Dark things, but also light things. How much do you want to know?
Can we start with the light and go from there?
Certainly. You are about to embark on a fantastic new romantic journey. It's something that is going to express its fullness very, very soon, but not before the dark thing.
Does the dark thing have anything to do with the Devilwood gold?
No, actually not. I'm sorry. No, it has to do with where you're from. I sense something rising up from the water.
Okay. But is there anything about the gold, though?
No, I'm sorry. There's nothing about gold.
Okay. So like romance and bad, but no gold.
No gold.
Do you know anything about the gold?
I don't know anything about the gold. You should get the Devilwood gold out of your mind. Many people have experienced, let's just say, ill fortune going after the alleged legendary Devilwood gold.
Right.
You don't want to be one of those people.
You're right. I should wait for this other thing that's going to rise up and consume me.
Well, you may not have a choice in that matter. Oh, in fact, you don't have a choice.
Well, this was neither enlightening nor helpful, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
I just do what the Oracle tells me. I just relay it.
I'm sure you're very talented.
And with that, we'll cut that scene. And Ruth, what did you get on your
9.
a 9? Your meddling move with the Raven. Yeah. The Raven the Raven will stop and fly down on your shoulder, heavy on your shoulder because they're big birds. And he will whisper in your ear, much as Iaco whispers in Montero's ear. He will whisper of dark magic, of ancient gods, of spells. And he will whisper of the original colonists, the Spanish conquistadors, who originally found this land. And he will say that they had never left, but only one of them, probably referring to Montero, only one of them has been allowed to enjoy the spoils of this land. And here, Laura, as you are crawling into this tunnel, possibly going deeper underground, as the tunnel probably has a slight decline, up ahead you will start to hear the chittering and chattering of voices, but not speaking a language you recognize. It's more like feral animal noises, but definitely being made by humans. And you can hear them crawling about. And it sounds like there are dozens, maybe even more, down below. And here we'll take a 5-minute break. So you are currently at 7 clues, which is, you're on complexity 7, so it would be a flat roll. But I feel like you're definitely getting close to this, even if you are not maybe quite ready yet. It's up to you. But we're definitely like within shot here.
So weren't the claw marks? The
the
big
claw marks too. Yeah, that's
also?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Large claw marks. So in that case, you're at +1. I mean, that's it's good. So we can put Ruth and Esther together. I think Laura is still crawling around in subterranean spaces. But I think I just want to frame it up with Ruth and Esther having met up. You don't know where Ida went off to, but you're meeting up in the town square there.
Ruth, have you heard about the gold?
No, and I think you notice, like, Ruth has one thematically appropriate cut across her brow or something from where she jumped through the window, just like bleeding a little bit. No, I've had quite a day there. But so tell me about this gold.
No. First, you have to tell me about this. What is this?
Like, it's a long story, and I'll tell you later. But there's a conquistador and a giant rat that tried to eat me. And I jumped through a window, and I've never felt more alive.
Talking Raven.
Oh yeah. Well, you met him, right?
Did the conquistador speak Spanish?
I didn't ask, but I would imagine.
Did they say anything about gold?
No, he had some really nice, like, table settings though. Silver serving trays and such. Very, very upscale.
Sounds fancy. But not gold though.
No, so what's going on with this gold? You seem a little bit single-mindedly focused on this.
Well,
I know how you get sometimes.
When I get a story, I've got to follow it. And I just apparently, okay, so Ida and I, we saw a ghost. That happened. There's like a drunk man, and he is also a ghost, but everyone pretends that he's not a ghost. It's very confusing, but definitely a ghost.
So can ghosts get drunk?
perhaps he was drunk at the time of his death and now it's like a permanent condition. I'm not really sure. We
That's
should
really
probably
unfortunate.
ask the Ouija board at some point in time, or get like a book on ghosts. Anyway, so we saw him. He doesn't seem to know that he's a ghost, or he's pretending not to know he's a ghost. Unclear. Then we saw this like woman, like our age, and she said that she was gonna read us our fortunes. And then she didn't want to read us our fortunes, and instead we contacted another ghost who spoke Spanish. And I speak Spanish because of Miguel, so that was like really fun, and I got to practice my Spanish a little bit. But anyway, so then that ghost, I guess, was like a conquistador or something, maybe, unclear. And then it was talking about the gold, and we have to find the gold. And then Bessie told my fortune, and apparently I'm gonna have romance and bad things are gonna happen. That's, I don't know. Anyway.
Did she mention the gold in your
She told
fortune?
me not to go look for the gold because bad things happen, but then she told me bad things were gonna happen anyway. So anyway, I think we should go look for this gold. I bet you it's tied to what's going on here.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if we figure out what's going on here, maybe at that point we could dedicate more of our effort toward the gold. Also, I'm pretty sure at this point we're going to miss the birding conference if we don't leave in a few days. So,
right, you're right. We have to see the birds. But if we find the gold, then also we can like spend more money on the trip and have like a cool trip at the bird conference.
I mean, the bird conference itself is already pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but like more cool.
I don't understand, but yeah. Anyway, so I'll explain all.
Whisker sticking out of your bag.
Oh yes, demon rat whisker. I'm not sure what it would be useful for, but I took it with me.
Meanwhile, while this conversation is going on, Laura, you can hear you're getting closer and closer to some sort of subterranean lair with some sort of people, by the sound of it, that are crawling around down here. What do you do?
I think Laura puts this mask back on and continues crawling, and at least to see what is going on there.
Oh boy, I think this is probably the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve here? Or if you just fail the die roll?
Sure. Well, she will. She fears that she might get stuck in one of these tunnels.
Oh, it's worse than that. These things are going to find you, and you are going to be dinner. Let's go ahead and roll. I'd like for you to take it at disadvantage, please.
What am I rolling with?
Composure.
Vitality or composure?
Composure.
Okay. Let's see. Yep, that's a 4.
You are crawling around, and the tunnel opens up into this wide open space, a cavern underneath Devilwood. And you can hear the crunch of bones under your feet, ribs, skulls, femur bones. And then you see these Morlock type people crawling down the sides of the cavern walls. Some of them are still wearing rusted armor and tattered breeches. Most of them are quite naked and pale and large, milky white eyes. And before you can react or do anything, they jump on you. They grab you and pull you in multiple directions. You can hear first the pop of your joints being pulled out of their sockets, and then the tearing of your flesh as you are violently quartered by these monsters as they sink their teeth into you, your blood spraying everywhere, your screams completely unheard in this deep subterranean place. Unless you'd like to mark a crown, of course.
I will mark a crown of the queen.
Very good. That instead puts your result at a 7 to 9. I'm going to say that before you can crawl into this space, you can see the space. You see the bones. You might even see the creatures crawling about, but they haven't seen you yet. I'm going to give you a condition. The condition is going to be the pit of bones.
So I think Laura remembers when she sees this, she remembers this one time when with this man that she had this long relationship with, or this long affair with, the diplomat. He had to go to Rome, and they went to the Capucine crypt, one of these churches where there's all these bones, and skulls, the wall. And I think that's what she remembers. And she remembers this trip in this mixture of, like romantic dinners in Rome, and then all this history and these, this kind of macabre side of Catholicism, relics and skulls and so on.
Yeah, this isn't so neatly organized as an ossuary. This is this is just piles of fucking bones and horrid cannibalistic underground creatures. What do you do?
I think is she close enough that she could grab one of the bones or something?
Just as like evidence or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. You can have that for free.
Okay. I think she will do that, and I think then she will move backwards, kind of, try to get back out of these tunnels.
I think we'll just fast forward and put you all together. You know a lot about what's going on in Devilwood. The question you have to answer is what is happening to the disappearing people who visit. And I think here, really specifically, we just want to know, what is the mystery of the town? What is everyone up to? What's the secret that they're all hiding or participating in or whatever? At this point, you have you're still at 8 clues, but it's a good amount for getting this sorted out, I think. Do you want to start theorizing, or do you want to keep searching?
I could theorize, probably.
First person with a theory about what's going on in Devilwood, by all means, start laying it out for us.
So Ruth is like, well, okay, I guess it's out of character, right? But in character, I think Ruth would be explaining all of this as if she had just seen Jungle Cruise, with because she really thinks The Rock is a nice young man, and so she watches all of his movies, even if they are kind of violent sometimes. But so the conquistadors came here to look for this gold, right? And so they sort of got absorbed into the landscape, and so they're like the Morlocks or whatever down in the catacombs there. And I think there's probably some sort of like ancient god who was here, who's imprisoning them, right? And so that's where we have like the altar and all of that. And so I think that Luther Montero maybe is the one who was allowed to remain a person so that he can organize these rituals to this ancient god.
That's feeling pretty good so far. So the spell inscribed in blood is just evidence of ritual magic. We haven't touched the nightshade or the jar yet. The secret altar, though, is of the god that existed in these lands. The passage is the subterranean lair down to where the conquistadors are. It sounds like maybe this evil god forced the conquistadors to stay here, basically, like trapped them, or they eventually just became this way. Not really sure what's going on there, but in any case, I think that's the connection. The Raven, of course, told you that story. They came for buried gold. The large claw marks, of course, references Iago, but how does Iago fit into the theory? And how does the jar with the heart in it and the nightshade also fit in? That's where Alicia or Adrian, do you have any thoughts on this or any other theories?
Maybe there's always been like a monster, and that could be like Iago still here, and now Montero has to take care of him or whatever. So, but also with the nightshade and potentially with the jar in a heart, what if also the town is kind of in on it to help, like they want to keep safe from the gods, so there's no more like conquistadors coming, so now they like get people who come into the town and like sacrifice them to keep the god quiet.
Yeah, well, and maybe they also feed people to the conquistadors too, because the conquistadors are just down there, like, I mean, maybe they are. I'm curious more about that story. Like, why are they immortal? Why is Luther Montero immortal? Like, what's all that?
Maybe it's like a cursed gold that was specifically designed to bring them in, like the god or the creature. Maybe it's not a god. Maybe it actually just is like Iago, like this demon kind of creature, like bringing people in and then like maybe staying alive off of their now immortality. So like they find the gold, they touch the gold, and now Iago gets to like live forever.
Oh, so it's a curse.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder.
Adrian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering whether they feel like they are doing this to protect the outside.
That's
like,
interesting idea.
basically keeping the god happy here, so it doesn't terrorize. Like, basically they're sacrificing themselves in a way, and have been for centuries, and that's kind of because I'm wondering what the role of the sheriff is in all this, and maybe he's kind of covering it up in a sense, because he needs to present like the face to the outside, that that these are just like normal disappearances, right? But he believes he's doing it actually for the greater good, like to
save the
prevent
outside
this
world.
evil to come out.
Classic motivation. I like that. I think it probably okay, so as the three of you have sort of described it so far, it sounds like the conquistadors found this cursed gold. The cursed gold, maybe it's the cursed gold that cursed them with immortality, possibly.
We could also bring their immortality in through the jar with the still beating heart. Like maybe that's like a physical representation of like what remains of them. So as long as that's still beating, the conquistadors are still around.
Oh, and maybe that heart, maybe that's Luther's heart, possibly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Right.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty good. So it's that magic that keeps them alive, right?
Is the nightshade growing around this tree so to kind of keep people away from it? Maybe.
Oh, that's a possibility.
The nightshade there, like that was the area where
it was.
We were.
Oh, yeah, that was in the same little area. Yeah. Maybe that's to keep animals away, possibly. Yeah.
Or I mean, that could even be to aid in like getting people to sacrifice, right? Because we're saying the whole town is kind of involved in these sacrifices.
Yeah.
I mean, they need some way to like subdue people and all of that.
Yeah. I think that's probably, it could even serve both purposes for sure. So, okay, so at some point, these conquistadors arrived looking for gold. They discovered, maybe Iago explained the magic to them to stay alive forever. And so they did that. but Iago kind of didn't mention the negative part of that, which is they would become like increasingly ravenous beasts. And or maybe Luther Montero purposely trapped the other conquistadors down there as well, right? In order for his own advantage. Maybe he was obsessed with the gold. I don't know, that's a thought. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, why are some of the conquistadors trapped and became monsters, whereas Luther was allowed to stay and prosper?
I mean, it could be as simple as like whoever, either Iago or the coyote god or whoever, just needed a person, right, to act as their agent on the surface, who could interact with people, who could get sacrifices and all of that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, I like that. So interesting. Okay, so essentially what it boils down to is the modern day residents of Devilwood, embodied by the sheriff and probably Elsie and Millicent as well, they believe that by continuing to participate in Montero's like magic and sacrifices, they're keeping the outside world safe from Montero, essentially, and Iago, right? That's pretty good. I think we've accounted for all the clues then. I mean, it all kind of makes sense. Shall we see if you're right? Dan, why don't you roll? +1.
All right. That is an 8.
An 8. The solution's correct. You can choose to leave, knowing what's going on, and report this to the authorities. But in doing so, you might create an enemy out of Luther Montero, which might not be helpful in the coming sessions. Or you can attempt to stop Luther now on your own. The choice is yours.
So Ruth is going to suggest we try and destroy this heart and just see what happens.
To see if that's Luther's like Horcrux or whatever.
Phylactery, yeah.
His phylactery, yeah. Anyway, well, so you guys can have a decision about what you want to do.
But also the Burning Conference is pretty soon, so we do need to wrap it up quickly.
There's like a small part of Esther who's like, maybe we just like peace out, you know, like we don't say anything. We just
let them keep doing their thing. Maybe
keep doing your thing. Yeah.
But we've never failed to bring evildoers to justice, right? We got to keep this streak alive. Our unbroken streak of perfectly executing justice.
The question is, who needs the justice?
I was about to say, you have literally put the wrong people in prison.
They're also kind of
unbroken streak of perfect justice.
They're all bad, obviously. Like Montero's bad, Iago's bad, like Demon Rat. The sheriff is not great either if he's in on like murdering people, even if his intentions are good. So like, who are we gonna take down?
Yeah, maybe we just see what happens when I drop my podcast. My hard-hitting expose on this town.
Laura, what do you think? You've had the most direct contact with these elements. Well, Ruth has to, I guess, but yeah.
And Laura says, so I wonder if we can, if they somehow can use something else to sacrifice to, or maybe if they sacrifice their own if they sacrifice an immortal being, maybe that would once and for all quiet down this evil god.
I'm not convinced that part of it's even true. Like, I was able to escape from Iago with a bowl of hot soup, so he can't be that all powerful.
definitely the most supernatural episode on your podcast yet.
I know, yeah, I'm a little worried about the reception of this. I think people might think that I've jumped the shark on this season, but
Just like
We'll
this
see.
episode of Brindlewood Bay has jumped the shark.
Okay, there's one other factor we have to consider. What about the gold?
Can I just say, in fiction, I love the idea of Ruth making reference to jumping the shark, like the like the writers like know how this episode's going to be received. So,
well, so as far as the gold goes, I mean, we don't really have a lot of clues for the gold, right?
Right, but if it's like kind of maybe the source of the magic, we should maybe like just find it and then destroy it or keep it, but just, probably destroy it.
I feel like maybe we shouldn't mess with the cursed gold that has trapped conquistadors in this town for, a few hundred years. And I don't know, that's just me though.
Well, but if we just leave the mystery as it is, I think but you're right. We either should leave these people to whatever it is they're doing, or we should try to make it all collapse on itself so that it is no longer any threat.
those are two very different outcomes, two very different branches to take.
What if, hear me out, we go find the heart, we just bring it with us when we leave. If something happens, it's like, break jar in case of emergency. But we just got that in our back pocket. We go enjoy the burning conference, and then we head back to Brindlewood Bay and, put this heart on a shelf somewhere.
Okay.
And if these evil people show up, then we destroy the heart, and then they will have enough problems to deal with at home and will leave us alone.
Exactly.
So it's it's our insurance policy.
Right.
That sounds good.
Also, just for funsies, what if we stab the heart with the demon rat whisker?
I think that's what we should do in case of emergency.
Right, yeah. Well,
break the jar and stab it with the rat whisker in case of emergency.
We'll take the rat whisker to the jar.
In case of emergency, stab with demon rat whisker. Good. So that sounds like that's what we're doing then. We're kind of leaving Devilwood to do Devilwood's
Get the jar.
thing.
Yeah, get the jar with the heart and get out of here.
Yeah. So somebody can add the jar with the heart to their cozy little place if they wish. They can do that. And you should have already added the demon rat whisker if you didn't already do that.
Got it. So should I take that heart too? Okay.
And
Yeah, got to keep them together, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
There are some rewards here. One of the rewards is something that everyone gets. It is a SeekerNet username and password. The Mavens locate a sticky note in the belongings of the FBI agents. The note has the address of the SeekerNet website along with a username and password. SeekerNet is a hub for occult investigators and conspiracy theorists to swap notes. While the site is awash with misinformation, there are some knowledgeable users. Each Maven adds SeekerNet username and password to their cozy little place. There is another reward. An expensive or luxurious item. So it says the family of one of the missing travelers have offered a reward for information on the whereabouts of their loved one. Depending on the outcome of this mystery, the Mavens might be in a position to claim this reward. I don't think you are, though. I don't think you're in a position to claim this one. So you have your SeekerNet username and password, though, as your reward for this mystery. And do we have any we have to do the Crown of the Woods. Everyone needs to do their Crown of the Woods scene. Narrate a flashback to when you acted on instinct rather than reason. You've all been doing that this whole mystery, but let's go back. Whoever wants to narrate first, do so.
Okay, I'll go first. So back in the days, the early days, like just after J school, first career in journalism, Esther just was like so invested in getting that big story, that big break, that thing that was going to make the news. And an anonymous tip came in about government corruption, one of those, perfect career making, like environmental disasters, people are getting cancer. And so she just like pursued it doggedly, like a bloodhound, if you will. And despite the fact that there was no evidence, she was convinced that she was in this like deep conspiracy. And at one point in time, she actually goes and like accosts a government official, thinking that she can get him to, get him on the record. She's got him. And of course, it goes horribly wrong because none of this was true at all. And arguably, that's probably why she didn't actually end up having that much of a career, because it kind of haunted her for her life.
Nice. Love it. Ruth or Laura?
So I think like talking to the Raven is bringing back memories for Ruth of when she was doing research in India, and like she was staying, like before she went out into the location, she was staying in this hotel, and like every day the birds would come down, like a little myna bird would come down and like chirp at her. And one day it came down and just screamed and screamed and screamed. And she was like, and she thought something was up. And so she went out and like followed it outside. And it brought her like a little ways outside the town. And then as soon as she got outside of town, there was this giant earthquake. And like when she came back, she found that the hotel had been flattened that she had been staying in. And so like, and then the myna bird just squawked at her one more time and flew off.
Nice.
I think we finally see the scene where Laura got this Indian yoga ritual book where she basically had said goodbye to her partner one night, and or to the other people at this embassy actually, and like she was about to leave, all her bags were packed, and then she saw this book on like being on display there in the embassy the last time she left it to get back to the US after Brian, the diplomat, had died. And she just grabbed it from this display case and just went out and directly to the airport. And that's kind of the last thing she took from India.
Nice. Let's do end of session questions. Did the murder maven solve a mystery? Yes, you did. Go ahead and mark your XP for that. Esther, did you dote on someone?
No, I sure didn't.
Did you behave like a woman half your age? Maybe in flashback?
Yeah, I think that. And like just that like dogged, like wanting to pursue the goal.
Oh, yeah, I'm
like,
into it.
Call
Yeah,
back to the early days.
Yeah, I like it. Ruth, did you behave like a woman half your age?
I think so.
Diving out a window.
Like glass window.
Yeah. Did you secretly undermine the authority of a local official?
I don't think I did that.
Okay. Let's go to Laura. Did you share a memory of a late family member?
I think so, with the trip to Rome.
Yep.
So yeah.
Did you behave like a woman half your age? Yes.
I think so. Yes.
Awesome. And let's just go to Stars and Wishes. Short session today. Let's go to Stars and Wishes, and whoever wants to go first, take it away. I'll go first. I never go first. Stars, I loved. I had a really great time with this whole mystery. It was a super mystery. It is the humor of it, the horror of it, both the humor and the horror were both like firing off in equal measure. It was really, really enjoyable. So I quite like that a lot. I liked all of the scenes where the cliffhangers were being resolved. That was really terrific. Star to Alicia for playing into the gold thing. Didn't have as much time as we maybe would have liked, but maybe next session we'll see it again. So yeah, who knows? And so really, really dug that. I always love Laura just pushing into those darker places. Like Laura never stops pushing into those darker places. And I always quite like Ruth's basic amiability, like getting her into places, you know, and like and just the way that sort of like allows Ruth to move through spaces is always really enjoyable to watch. Yeah, those are my stars.
Yeah, so I think you hit mostly my stars too, but just in general, like, yeah, I thought this mystery was really fun, and like it was cool to have, like, it was a nice change of pace, and I like how we're steadily becoming worse and worse at resolving mysteries.
You're just like solving them for the pleasure of solving it now.
Right.
It's like no social benefit being added to anything.
Yeah, I like the rat whisker and that whole scene, and the getting from this kind of horror scene into a half slapstick scene with the MacGyver move. I thought that was great. Yeah, and I mean I think especially in these kind of mysteries, it's interesting because it's always this balance between kind of playing your character in these situations as not, like a superhero, but rather as someone who is, an old lady that is somehow stumbling into these situations. Yeah, so I like that kind of constant back and forth between these action scenes and kind of, getting back to, in the end, we're just this group of, bookworms that have somehow got tangled up in all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a star also for like just it's totally absurd, but we were all like, yes, absolutely, ghosts, heart in a jar, rats, like just playing it like it was totally normal, which I think really works actually for a Sweeps Week mystery where you're like, this is outrageous, but everyone just accepts things as fact. I really liked that. And I also agree. I kind of like that we solved it, but we didn't resolve it, right? I like this planning ahead, taking the heart as a just in case thing. I think
so we can get to the conference.
Yeah, also, yeah, I like this, like, but the bird conference coming through. But I also think it speaks to like, so we've seen some shit at this point in time, and I feel like it makes sense that we'd be like, you know what? Let's just keep this clearly magical, weird object because we're definitely going to need it in the future.
I love it.
Yeah, I like the both this kind of insistence on the gold then of Esther, and also the bird seed for the rat. I think that was great as well.
If I had a wish, well, obviously we're starting the Void mystery next week, and it's not something we get to do very often, so I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to see how the whole campaign feeds into the Void mystery. I think that's going to be really, really fun. It should be a really fun capstone for the whole campaign. So I'm always, really excited about that. It's not something we get to do very often, so it's fun, to just know that we're moving towards a conclusion of the campaign.
I really want to break that jar. It's going to be like burning a hole in my pocket the whole
wish.
time.
Yeah, it's a good wish.
I want to see the fallout of us falsely accusing Sheriff Dalrymple. Like, I really want to see by the end this come like full circle, because like that guy is a monster, and I think we're gonna have an epic showdown.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how all those sort of like decisions you've all made up until this point, like how it backfires maybe, or it's just something complicates matters. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Laura will survive this. Like in the middle of this, I had of the sessions, I had the feeling that she was kind of on this tragic path, and now we'll see. That's kind of my and of course, whatever her sister's role will be in the White Mystery, that's something I'm also looking forward to.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that actually. We'll see. If there are no more stars and wishes, are there any more stars and wishes? I have an end of credits scene for you. A little stinger, if you will. We see back in Brindlewood Bay, it's nighttime. The moon is high in the sky. A rocky cliff promontory looking out over to the ocean. You can hear the crash of the waves on rocks. And if you were there, you could feel the sea spray. And we see Ava and Phoenix Cole, the proprietors of Snowdrop House. We see them stepping to the edge of the cliff. And Ava looks at Phoenix and says, Phoenix, what are we doing out here? Is this some sort of, if this is something we're doing early for our anniversary, I don't like to be caught off guard by things like this. Even romantic gestures should fit somewhere in a schedule. And Phoenix says, don't worry, dear, don't worry. I have something really wonderful to show you, as they walk to the end of the cliff, or to the little overlook. And stepping into the moonlight, we see several more people. All of these people are wearing long robes and hoods, and they have those masks on their faces. And they all pull off their hoods and lift their masks, all except one of them. Standing there in their robes, we see Mrs. Carfax, Jane Leaf, Etienne Beauregard, a figure still too cloaked in shadow for us to tell who he is, and a woman who has not removed her mask or hood. The figure in the shadows steps forward, and we see that it's Hugh, Ida's husband, believed dead. He passes a robe over to Phoenix, who puts it on, and Ava looks suddenly quite frightened. And then we hear something rising up from the water, and we see large, thick black tentacles like tree trunks rising up out of the water. We see a toothy maw rising up out of the water, and a terrible single eye glowing brighter than the moon. Hugh walks forward, muttering some words, cuts Ava's throat, and pushes her off the edge into the maw of the beast. And everyone puts their masks back on and raises their hoods and begins chanting out, singing songs to their goddess Persephone, thanking them for the blessing of the child. And that concludes the end of credits and pushes us toward the Void Mystery. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week.